Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 15th of July. Welcome to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs discussion show with invited guests. We're discussing the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours. If you wish to get involved with this morning's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And yes, if there's anything national, international or local that's crossing your viewpoint, if you want to have a rant about it, those numbers to get in touch with us. Perhaps you're getting rather fed up with the traffic on the roads, cyclists, those bleeding scooters. We'll take all sorts here as we're in the second week of July. Third week of July, second week of July. And the summer season is here as well. Let's have a look, though, at the newspaper headlines this morning. The Sun says that the BBC and production company Banijay asked John Turode to resign as a MasterChef presenter after he was accused of making a racist remark. According to the source close to him, they suggested he should say he was going for mental health reasons, but that he rejected that. BBC insiders say they don't recognise those claims. Daily Mail says Greg Wallace is warning there will be more casualties if the BBC chooses to protect its legacy rather than protect people. The Times says the Culture Secretary says confidence in the BBC under Tim Davies has been called into question by a series of failures. The Mac cartoon in the Daily Telegraph shows a television report about the corporation, when the newsreader is saying the Director General should look away now if he doesn't want to know how this ends. Several papers lead with Donald Trump's toughest message to Russia about the Ukraine war. The Daily Telegraph says his announcement on weapons and tariffs represents the most concrete threat to Vladimir Putin over his refusal to sign up to a peace deal. Financial Times says Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with his Russian counterparts' intransigence. The Times leads with new grants being offered by the government to help increase sales of electric cars. It says motorists could save up to $3,750 with the biggest discounts applying to British-made vehicles. So looking at those headlines, those are the headlines. So the Financial Times, Trump threatens 100% trade levies if Russia does not end war in 50 days. Meanwhile, The Guardian, Trump issues warning to Putin as he does deal with NATO to arm Kyiv. The Daily Telegraph, Trump threatens China over Russian oil. And also they've got a picture of Constance Martin on the front page. So with socialite baby killer has 4 children in care. That's on the front of the Daily Mail as well. Constance Martin and her rapist lover guilty of killing baby Victoria. It's a horrible story. The killer aristocrat is their story. Revealed why daughter of privilege had 4 children taken into care. Arrogance of monster parents. That's on the front of the Metro. The Times, new grants to push sales of electric cars for net zero. Government offers up to £3,750 off new vehicles. The Sun, end of Turode. BBC told John to step back over a racist remark. MasterChef in meltdown, but he denies it happened. Meanwhile, the Daily Mirror, MasterChef scandal report. Sacked Greg, I won't be the last. Daily Express leads with next tax raid will pick the pockets of the grafters. This is her higher taxes for middle-class workers. And finally, the Daily Star leads with a photo of Chelsea hosting the Club World Cup. trophy featuring on the front page of the Daily Star, with Trump pictured getting caught up in the celebrations. Confused Cole Palmer, what's Trump doing? We are the champions. Trump, and a picture of the Donald, who didn't leave the... Normally when you win a trophy, you hand over the trophy and then you get out of the way. The President of the United States decided not to, and so they've got Trumpioni, ole, ole, ole. Yeah, indeed. There you go. Andres Gallardo. There you go, Andres. That's the front cover.
It's brilliant.
Yes, indeed it was.
Love it.
I don't think he quite knew. Jeremy Clarkson. Good morning to you, by the way.
Good morning, Giles. Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Jeremy Clarkson posted on his Facebook, because they had a halftime show as well, the World Club Cup. And it went on forever, basically. It went on for 35 minutes or something. So they were trying to do that whole Super Bowl thing. And Jeremy Clarkson said, "Dear Americans, just to let you know, the halftime break is for a pie, not sort of this whole..." They were trying to make it a mini. They were trying to make it a mini Super Bowl sort of thing. So there you go. So yes, indeed. He looked a bit bemused by it all. Right then, let's... talking point of this morning, and I've got a poll up on Facebook, which is on Talk Radio Official. There was a poll came out from the pollsters More in Common in the UK over the weekend that suggested that nearly 90% of people living in the UK have little or no trust in politicians. 70% of voters think the country is on the wrong track, and the prevailing word used to describe Britain is broken. It is also saying that the reform, out of all the politicians, all the parties people were sowing gains with, reforms, of course, which is populist, was showing the greatest gains, whilst all the big two, the Conservatives and Labour Party, people have lost trust in them. This is not just and I'm asking, at the moment I've got 100% of people saying yes, Britain is broken. They have lost their faith in...
Did you say this report was in the Times?
This was a poll that came out by a polling company called More in Common, which is quite well known.
And they're interested in Spanish politics then?
No, they're not. But I'm just saying there's a general... there's a general thing because of
that is a description exactly of what's happening in Spain.
Well, I think this is a Europe, if not worldwide phenomenon.
It's a worldwide thing. It's certainly very, very European, the fact that we have a broken politics throughout. And I'm not surprised at the results of that particular poll.
So let me know. 952784000 is the phone number. They even had this sort of bag thing. Which politician? Well, this question saying, which politician would you trust your bag with? If you had said, can you just mind my bag while I just nip in to do something? And none of them would. I think Keir Starmer came out apparently very badly indeed. But it's a sort of general malaise, isn't it? About there's quite a few things that have been happening, and a lot of it has come, I suppose, since lockdown as well. A lot of people that have lost maybe trust, maybe their faith in the organisations and institutions, because of it was seen as one rule for them and one rule for us, especially in the UK. We had Partygate, etc. So whilst people were being forced in the UK to stay in their homes, and we saw, we know what happened at Downing Street, because it was obviously, it went all over the place on the internet and whatever. But there's been a general sort of distrust. There's been a general lack of confidence in politicians, and in Spain, and in particular, because of the constant infighting, no clear government, deals being done, more corruption scandals coming out. The one that made me sort of like go, excuse me, was the thing about the PSOE saying that now none of the party members were allowed to pay for sex, which I thought was quite an interesting one. I mean, what has been happening in your opinion with?
I think, and your listeners will probably agree with me, or at least some of them, is that a lot of people feel orphans of a political party that will represent them. I listened to a interview with Felipe González. He was the prime minister in Spain from 1982 to 1996. He was a socialist prime minister, and he was interviewed on the radio, I think it was last week, and he said he's not going to vote for the Socialist Party. And he's a member. I mean, he was a prime minister, and that was a big statement for a socialist prime minister to say, "I'm not going to vote for this party," and he felt orphan of a party who would represent him. And so do I. I don't find there is. I mean, I've always described myself as a liberal. There is not a liberal party out there that would represent what I stand for.
Well, because the last thing is it was Ciudadanos, and they got absolutely.
It was, but you would think that some of that ideology, which is ideology that a lot of people, if it was explained properly, would agree with, hasn't been taken. That baton hasn't been taken by the Conservative Party, who's become more conservative even, because it's got the right-wing parties growing, and the biggest growth in Spain is Vox, and funnily enough, the biggest growth on the polls in the UK is Reform. So we're going that, we're taking that route, that direction, instead of going for a more central and more liberal policies, which is what I would think the majority would expect and would be happy with. But the growth comes from at the moment from the right wing. In Spain happened that there was not that long ago, it seems ages ago, but the growth came from the far left, with the rise of Podemos and everything else. And at some point in the UK, something similar happened with Jeremy Corbyn becoming the leader of the Labour Party and having, sort of a growth from the far left. So what's happening now is that a lot of people in the middle, and let's not forget, I don't know what the percentages in the UK are, but it's going to be very, very similar. 70% of the votes go for either PP or PSOE in Spain, which is a Conservative or the Labour of Spain, and it's 70% of the vote, which I think that 70% of the vote, what they are looking is for a more centrist type of policies. And that is there is a vacuum in there, and going towards the streams.
It's very interesting though in Spain, in Spain, because if you look at Felipe González, and you like my, we are the same generation, okay? And we knew that whole period of the 80s when Spain had the Movida, it was the new political parties coming in. It was the transition to democracy, even though, Franco had died in 75. It wasn't really until the 80s it kicked in. And the shockwaves because after Suarez, of course, the first prime minister, of a party that no longer exists. What was the name of the party that?
UCD.
UCD.
It's Unión de Centro Democrático, Democratic Centre.
Which was presumably just put there because there hadn't been a democratic party in Spain since the end of the Civil War. So that had been.
Well, that party gathered a lot of the people who'd worked for the Franco regime, but they want to change, so they just gather into that party.
So
Fraga was more Partido Popular, who tried to retain the regime as it was. The ones who want to change was UCD, but a very, very conservative. And in 1982, Felipe González's Socialist Party took over, and he started an age of reform throughout the country that it touched every single aspect of Spain. From the military, there was a big reform in the military. Was very, very important. The army and everything else, because the army had a lot of powers, and it slowly started to modernize the army and sort of made redundant all the old generals from the Franco era, and just bring young people in and everything else. But it happened with everything, and with that joining the European Union, and a lot of investment came into Spain to work on infrastructures and things that were needed to be part of the European Union, in those days the EEC. And that made, the country grew and got modernized and became a different country from what it was before. And that was done under the government of Felipe González, that's quite shocking that someone who had a plan, developed the plan, and was successful with the plan, today is saying, I'm not voting for this socialist party, which are taking the country to its knees with all the things that they're doing. And they're doing many things that would shock. If you listed them and you looked at them, you would be absolutely shocked. But the most important thing that I would stress on the things that, not that they're doing, but they're not doing, is presenting a budget that we've had no budget for 3 years.
But that's because we've got fractured. That's because the system is so fractured.
It's so fractured, but that is where the orphanage of politics comes from.
The orphanage of politics.
Yes,
I like that.
A lot of people got no one to vote. I have got no one to vote for, and a lot of people feel that way. You know, the PP doesn't quite represent what you want, so a lot of people are going to go and vote in the next election. You will see to say, well, I'm going to vote for the least bad.
Actually, Richard just come in saying and Richard once again is not pulling his punches. Good morning to you. The British electorate are stupid. Always vote for the least worst. The scandal-ridden Felipe Gonzalez, that guy, quote unquote, Felipe Gonzalez. He said the scandal-ridden Felipe Gonzalez.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. I mean, no one is free of scandals in this country. It's in Spain. Yeah, it is true that towards the end of his being the premier, there was a lot of scandals, and that is the reason why he had to go. So all being said, but I mean, if you look at the overall result of what he did for Spain, was quite positive, because Spain was completely modernized under his, rule, if you like, if you want to call him that. But it is true that in the end, the scandals, the corruption and everything was like, pretty bad. And that's the reason why he had to go. But let's not forget, this is a Mediterranean country. If you look at Italy, for instance, we are, a joke compared to the level of corruption that you got there. And if you go to Eastern Europe, even more,
Well, yes.
So, yes, this is a corrupt country, but we are not the top of the tree yet.
952-78-4000. If you want to get your viewpoint heard about. Yeah, as you said, the thing with the rise of parties, though, with people saying, like, for example, like reform, is because they package them as no nonsense, as cutting through the old ways, and this is very, very appealing.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got, the case of reform that really surprises me. I've been looking into it, and they're under the spell of this leader. I mean, one of the elected councillors or mayors in one of the towns said, under the leadership of our great leader and everything. So we have this figure. Yeah. This figure that, let's not forget, he had his time with Brexit. He was one of the leaders of the Brexit movement with UKIP. He made a number of promises saying, if we leave the European Union, all these things are going to happen. We're going to have more money for the NHS. We're going to control our borders. We're going to do all that. None of that has happened. And now we are led to believe that if he was in government, they will control of the borders, and there were, the more resources for the NHS and everything else. Well, he's had his time. He's had his opportunity to prove all that. He hasn't done it. And even so, we are silly enough to think that if we give him another opportunity, he's going to this time do it. Well, that kind of politics that he's presenting to the public have already failed, and there is no depth in his in his politics. And more importantly, for me, this is key for any party and any leader of a party, is he hasn't got a team. You need a good team of good people to advise you on different aspects of running a country. You need a good economists to run the economy. You need good people to run the health service. You need good, so you need a cabinet around you that supports your plan and are capable of developing a plan to get a result. I don't see that in reform, but we still get great growth on the intention of vote from reform. And I was going to say Vox then, because it's exactly the same. I mean, Vox haven't got First, they haven't got a team. They've got a leader who sort of is very charismatic, Mr. Abascal. Yeah, very charismatic. But if you read what the manifesto, is pathetic. There's a couple of points that you said, well, okay, I would agree with that. But generally, it's quite pathetic. And he hasn't got a team either. So are we going to put our trust on these guys, especially Farage? I mean, Abascal perhaps is the unknown because he's never touched power. But Farage, he's had his opportunity with Brexit, and I think he's fell miserably.
Here's the thing about, I want to ask you, Andres, in terms of, because we've seen some members of like Lee Anderson, for example, leaving the Conservatives to go to reform in the UK. Have there been high-profile figures from other parties in Spain, for example, going to Vox, or are they all sort of homegrown?
Yeah, I think there were a couple. I mean, I to be honest, I don't know. There weren't big names. There were big names who left the party, that's for sure. But there's been a few PP members, but they're not high profile. Not that I know. They've gone to Vox. No, they've got their own people. But as I say, very, very poor arguments. And there's a focal point on immigration, like there is in reform, as if that is going to solve all the problems of the country. And the problems of the country are very complex and very wide. You can't just focus on one problem and think that problem is you're going to tackle it, because you're not. And the proof is Brexit hasn't solved the problem of immigration in the UK. If anything, it's worse now than it was before. And if we think in Spain that by voting reform we're going to solve the immigration problem, we are very, very wrong. It's not going to be solved. It is. Look, let me just tell you something, Giles. We've had at least 20 years, more, 22 years since I've been in Spain, coming back from the UK. I remember the first time I got here and I rented an apartment on the seafront. And the agent who rented me the apartment, he said to me, "Oh, you'll be very entertained here because you'll see the boats coming on the beach and these displaced people coming off, not knowing where they are and running to the mountains."
Right.
And this is happening day in, day out. So there'll be nice entertainment here from your balcony. And I thought, what is he talking about? That was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Have we done anything about it? We've still got the same problem. Nobody's done anything about it. Everyone is looking the other way because tackling that is very, very complex. Because once the people come in, you cannot chuck them out. You cannot return them to where they come from because you don't know where they come from. They don't come here with a passport and a visa. They come with no documents. You have to assimilate these people here. You have to first make sure that they're hydrated and fed and everything else. And then what do you do with them? You have to integrate them into society. And that's what nobody's doing. No regional government, no central government, nobody wants to tackle that integration, that being able to, sort of give them the basic skills to people to be able to come and, sort of merge into society. And while that's that's expensive and time consuming. So that's why no politician, no party, no government wants to tackle that issue. And that's why we have this problem now, and that's not going away, because as we are receiving more people, there is an element of others far away who will say, "Oh, I'm going to go there as well. And I'm going to go there as well." And the voice goes around. They all turn up here with mobile phones, so they're communicating with whoever they communicate. I imagine the family back home and everything else. So they are calling, in. And they don't realize that the journey is a very, very dangerous journey. And we hear of, unfortunately, of people who don't make it to shore and they stay in the sea, And that is a problem that is going to continue to be unless we tackle it and we are able to manage and make all these people coming in useful for our society, which in most countries there's an element where we need them.
Yeah, but we're seeing this all over the place. For example, I mean, I think somebody said the other day, 15 million illegal immigrants in the States, and ICE are going into neighborhoods. I got a friend who lives in Simi Valley in Los Angeles saying that they were actually ICE agents, and that it's a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, and saying that ICE agents are literally driving up and down the streets looking for people, which is, slightly disconcerting, and they're raiding farms and stuff like that, and car washes and places like that. Now, who is going to do we've had this situation as well. Here we have it in the UK, we have it in Spain. All those giant greenhouses up as you head towards sort of Almeria area, and they're all being.
But it's all over Spain. Spain is a country which the primary industry is vital, which is agriculture and so on. And that the Spanish people don't want to do the picking fruit jobs.
Sure.
I say picking fruit because I come from an area in Spain where it's mainly fruit trees.
Yeah.
And I on my summer vacations, I used to go and pick up fruit until I said to my dad, this is too hard for me. I don't want to do it anymore. And now you go there and it's just African people doing that work. So we need those people doing that.
And yet Vox was saying the other week that they want to send second generation, anybody from other...
But it's ridiculous. It's happening in the United States. You're throwing all these people from the plantations away, and the people who are working.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be more useful to have them working and paying taxes than to chase them around the streets, rounding them up and throwing them away, and throwing them where to? I mean, there's people who've been there living for 15 years in the United States. Where are you going to throw them to? They've got the roots set. That's the whole.
And
are we going to do the same in Spain? Is Farage going to do that the same in the UK? It's not doable. It's not practical. It's not going to. Where are you going to send them? Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, this is the whole thing, because the previous government, of course, said that they were going to try and send them to Rwanda, and that obviously was a non-starter, and a complete waste of UK money, taxpayers' money in the UK. And it seems to be the policy of the bright shiny thing, the policy of the tweet, the policy of the social media. Nobody's thinking strongly enough about what the actual implications. It's not as easy as saying to everybody, right, off you go. We had in the UK, we had the hotel, but we had the floating barges brought over from Sweden. Do you remember that? And then they had Legionnaire's disease or something. So. It's not as easy as saying get them out of here, because I mean, again, you could say, we're in Andalusia, for goodness sake. I mean, if you go back a couple hundred years, a lot of the people who are the contagious tendency back to whatever. It's not. Is it as simple as that?
It is not, and the problem is that nobody's presenting a plan that makes any sense. To be able to solve the problem and to get this situation working for everyone.
Yeah.
And all the politicians do. Going back to your poll, do we trust politicians? No, we don't, because nobody's presenting anything credible to the people to solve problems with a proper design plan. To tackle this problem. All we're getting is headlines from the politicians as well, not only from the press now, but the politicians, they give you a headline: Rwanda. We're going to send everybody to Rwanda. Great headline, and say, no, we don't want, all these calling people to come here. They're going to go to Rwanda. Yeah, but what's the plan? Who's going to go there? Who's going to pay for all that? What is the situation once all these people process in Rwanda? Where are they going to go? Are they going to, there's no detail. That's the whole point. There is no detail. And if you work for any corporate company, it used to be my battle. Every year I had to present the budget.
Yeah.
Last week of December, just before Christmas, for the following year. My great battle was always to say, I need a bigger marketing budget. And I remember sitting on the board and he said, okay, you need a marketing budget what are you going to do with it? How are you going to spend it? How is that going to create more business? How are you going to develop? And I had to go into so much detail to every penny of the money that I was spent to be able to get agreed 20 grand more on my marketing budget. But it was like attention to detail to everything. But with all these, we don't get just get a headline, but there's no detail behind it. There's no plan. There is nothing. So at the moment, the problem is not going away.
952-78-4000 is the phone number. The poll, is Britain broken? We're asking the question. 88% of you think it is. 12% of you think it isn't. More back with more after this.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always lively. Joined in the studios by Andres Gallardo. Going to be joined as well by Jamie Hamilton Milan as well. After 11 o'clock, he was unable to make it in this morning. He'll be joining us on the phone. If you've got any viewpoints you want to get across, love to hear from you. Uncle Nigel, I'm just saying because I was looking at some pictures of Reform. Reform UK is on the march and the most popular party on TikTok, it's saying now. Meanwhile, and there's a picture of Nigel Farage going in on a JCB excavator. So that was, of course, if you remember, famously Boris Johnson came through a wall, a JCB excavator, knocking down, opening up Britain for trade or whatever because of El Bresi. These are coming in from Richard. Uncle Nige is a compulsive liar, a charlatan. He's done nothing for his constituents. So what does anyone expect him to do for the UK? He said he wanted to fill his future cabinet, with business people, or as I call them, unelected bureaucrats. The same problem is impossible to police, and it's never going to end. Meanwhile, this one, in pretty much all the UK's problems, boats, etc., will be solved by returning to the EU. Brexit has and will blight the country for decades. So that's some of the things coming in. The poll at the moment, is Britain broken? I should have said, is Spain broken as well? But here you go. So, so I'm just looking. It says reform women. That's not a statement. That's something. Oh, that's yeah. Okay, I'm looking at that's on the TV at the moment. Right then, 88% think Britain is broken. 12% of you think it isn't broken. If you want to get yourself have your viewpoint, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right then, this is a story. Sorry, Andres, you're pointing at me. I just wanted this story we're going to go on to, which is which is broken, and Bob had it in his news feed as well today, which was that police have arrested 9 people in connection with anti-migrant violence in Torre Pacheco.
Yes, over
the weekend. It started on there was an assault on an elderly resident, and he said one of his assailants was Moroccan. And far-right groups have called for violence in the town, up in the Murcia region, I believe.
It's in the Murcia region, yes, it is. That reminded me you got in the UK. You had a similar case in Stockport.
Yeah.
Was that right? Yeah, where the social media were encouraging people to go to protest and
well, it was the thing outside the migrant hotels. I mean, it's the whole
migrant hotels.
Yeah.
So they blame everything on all the violence and all the crime with migrants. The statistics don't support that. Of course, there will be migrants who commit crimes, of course, but there's local people commit crimes as well. So, but the social media are very, very powerful on concentrating people and going there to protest. And what's happened there is that it's turned into quite a violent situation, and they are mainly following and trying to mob Moroccan communities in the area, which is quite a big community in that particular area of Torre Pacheco in Murcia, basically because they concentrate on agricultural work, and a lot of the Moroccans are either in that particular kind of work or supporting that kind of work, the industry that goes around, not indirect jobs, but indirect jobs as well. So the community is quite big. So they've gone there, encouraged in social media, saying that the Moroccans are the ones who causing all the problems there, and all the crime comes because the Moroccans arrived and the crime started to go up and everything else. If you listen to the officials there, they say that the figures don't correspond to the reality, that yes, there has been some crime from Moroccans. But look, you know, what are the laws for? You know, I mean, if you commit a crime, whether you're Moroccan, you're Spanish, or you're English, the police are going to arrest you, and you're going to be, you know.
But this is the thing. Is that the problem is it's much easier to sort of whip up stuff, isn't it? And I mean, they had their on Friday, the Ayuntamiento had one of those, like they do a demonstration or a solidarity rally, you know, on a Friday afternoon. You'll see that quite a lot happens when there's, like, you know, male violence, you know, machista violence.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be this very solemn sort of, we're all in the same boat together, all united. And they were heckled. There was far right groups there. One group called "Deport Them Now," for example, and they were shouting sort of anti-immigrant slogans. So, you know, and the thing is, I suppose, is the fact that people, you know, the police, the Guardia Civil are saying that there are, you know, people coming in from out of town.
Yeah, they are. It's gathered pace. It's like a snowball. Also, the videos that they're showing apparently in social media. I don't have social media, so I can't see it. But apparently, they're showing a man beaten up. But it wasn't the man who was beaten up. It was someone else 3 years ago in a different town.
Yeah.
But you're using that video to say this is what happened there. Let's go and sort it out. It's, you know, a posse of right-wing activists just turning up there wanting to cause trouble. That goes nowhere. I mean, that is fueled by social media, similar to what happened in Stockport, and you got a number of days with violent clashes. They take resources from the police, who have to manage all that instead of doing the proper job, which is catching criminals, instead of keeping the peace in the town. There was like 70 or 80 Guardia Civil and police that had to be deployed there in that small town. Yeah. I mean, that's taken a lot of resources from the police work just to control a mob, you know. I mean, what's...
now, the Interior Minister, who is, I can't remember,
Marlaska.
Grande Marlaska.
Grande Marlaska, that's the guy, yeah.
Now, he said that
he was busy at Wimbledon.
Was he?
Yeah. While this was happening in Murcia, he was watching the final at Wimbledon.
Actually, at Wimbledon, was it?
Exactly. Next to the king. So just taking charge of the situation.
Right. Okay. Fine.
And in the main box of Wimbledon. There you go.
So, but he's gone. He's saying, you know, that he's playing. Has he scored Has he fizzed one down the back line, to return one down the back line, as the saying goes, by saying that this is a result of the far right rhetoric of Vox? Because they can work on two ways. People go, oh yes, it is, or you can say, oh well, that's just the socialists once again blaming Vox, but it is they don't know what's really going on.
Well, there's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other here. Oh, did you like that expression coming from me?
I'm very impressed by that one.
Yes, because Vox are saying no, we didn't say that, and they're going to sue on a television channel who sort of published some captious headline. Yeah. And all that going on. So they Vox deny it, and the Home Office minister and the people around saying, "Oh, this is all Vox promoting these." I doubt very much that you'd be stupid enough to promote something like this, being a political party with the amount of growth that you've got in your intention to vote. If they're stupid enough, then yes, but I don't think they would be. I think this is more independent far-right groups who enjoy violence anyway. Again, I'm just making the reference to Stockport because it just sounds exactly the same kind of thing. Social media showing video that is not quite right, or information that is not accurate, but it incensed people, and those who are more prone to violence, they said, oh, that's a nice weekend away, and let's break some shops and some, what do you call it, where you put the rubbish bins and put fire to it, and just cause a little bit of trouble. I don't think a party like Vox would be encouraging that, at least not officially. As I said, that would be completely stupid of them, because there is very little tolerance in society in general, whether you're right wing or left wing in Spain. We generally don't like violence, so we're not going to support anyone who promotes violence. So you lose a lot of votes by promoting violence. This is thugs.
Yeah.
And we have them everywhere. You've got them in the UK. Unfortunately, we've got them here. This is the kind of people who cause trouble at a football match and then they go to a town to attack immigrants. It's just the same kind of entertainment for them. But as I said, it's quite serious because it's taking a lot of resources. It's hurting a lot of people. A lot of businesses are being damaged by it, and a lot of businesses have to close because they don't want the business to be damaged and the loss of income. And it's just another snowball there.
Opinion de Murcia said that there were literally gangs of, there were groups of right-wing activists, patrolling up and down the streets with batons looking for people they believed, from North African descent. That's
pathetic. How can you describe that? What are you doing? You just go home.
They're keeping the streets safe, and we're making Spain great again.
In general, Spain is quite a safe country.
Yeah.
We have the same insecurity that any country will have. We have pickpockets in Barcelona. You've got pickpockets in London. We've got, the same kind of. But in general, people go about their business quite nicely here in Spain. We don't need vigilantes with batons, putting in place immigrant communities. We don't need that. The same way we don't need specific laws for domestic violence, Violence is violence. It's already legislated that you cannot hit anyone, and if you do, it has consequences. So why to have anything specific to, are we going to create the immigrant violence now law or something like that? We don't need it. You cannot do it, and that's the way it is.
Let's take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Live and lively as always. Should you wish to get into the last 10 minutes of the first half of this morning's Viewpoint, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Looking at my poll on TRE Official, the Facebook page, is Britain broken? With a recent poll suggesting that 90% of UK residents have little or no trust in politicians. 70% of voters think the country is on the wrong track, and prevailing word to describe Britain as broken. You can use it to Spain as well if you want. 90% of you think that Britain is broken. 10% think no. Rather depressing picture. What do you think we're going to do? When you look at the situation in Spain, Andres, 20 years ago with Podemos, with Ciudadanos, it was seen that this was going to be a new dawn for Spanish politics. These new parties would sweep aside there is
a reason for that. It wasn't that long ago. It was when all the cases of corruption from the then government, the PP government of Rajoy, they came out, and people got really fed up with the
credit cards and all that.
Yeah, the black credit cards and others. There was big corruption scandals that happened at the time. A lot of people got fed up, and there were these splinter parties that happened and said, look, we want to be new people. We want to have a new approach to politics. We want to be clean. One came in there was a liberal party, Ciudadanos, and there was an extreme left party, Podemos, closer to the Communist Party, and there were new young people coming into the fore. The problem with politics is that you have to have an element of you have to have a structure throughout the country, in every town, in every village, where people can talk to their representatives there, to know that the party's there. They can go there and make proposals. Every town in Spain will have what do you call it, like an office, if you like, of the PP and one of the PSOE. And they do a lot of local marketing for their parties. And that's how these new parties, they didn't have the money and the infrastructure to be able to be so approachable in the little towns and or medium-sized towns, and everything else. So what happened is they get diluted, they get eaten by the bigger parties who already had for many, many years infrastructure in every town. And that happens. I guess it's the same in the UK. You will have, your Labour Party office and your Labour Party, and I remember years ago they used to send me flyers when I lived in England to go to a tea afternoon with the Labour Party, or a tea afternoon with the Conservatives, and then people go there and they get to know the local, so that kind of thing happens in Spain. And Ciudadanos and Podemos, these new parties, they didn't have that. So slowly people forgot about them. Also, there is just the idea of having a charismatic leader only lasts for so long. As I said before, you need a team around you, and you need to have a deployment of, infrastructure to be able to maintain that.
Couldn't you argue though that the problem with the Partido Popular is the fact that charismatic leaders have been in short supply, and currently it seems to be a very grey man who is leading.
Yeah, we've got a grey man leading the PP, but he's got a very good team though. Around him, some of them. I don't like all of them, but and then he's got other characters in the party, like the president of the Madrid community, Ayuso, who's very, very charismatic. You got the guy in Andalusia who's doing a very good job, and it's more of a liberal type.
Juan Moreno.
Juan Moreno. He's doing a good job. He's very, very popular. He's growing in popularity here. So you see, you've got the infrastructure around the country. Don't forget that of these 17 communities, I think it's 14 or 13 are governed by the PP.
Yeah.
So they've got quite a big base. The small parties, they appear for a time. They haven't got the infrastructure. And if you rely on one charismatic leader, that's going to last for so long. They will eventually fade away. That's what happened to Ciudadanos, and that's what happened with your friend Pablo Iglesias of Podemos, the guy with the ponytail.
Yeah,
remember him? He was vice prime minister.
The poster boy of hate for the far right.
Yeah, but I mean, his influence started to trickle down. He started losing votes. He left the party, and now he's almost forgotten about. So yeah, in the end, you get the big parties. They are the ones who can support the politics in the country, and that's what we got at the moment. However, we've got this new player that has come from the right, which is Vox, and this, according to the polls, is a party that is growing more in the intention of vote. We'll have to wait and see, of course, but it's growing in working class areas, and more importantly, the biggest growth that there is between 18 and 25-year-olds. Incredible. The youngest people are, that's also understandable. They're disenchanted.
Yeah.
They have no prospect of getting being
out of
independent.
their parents' house.
Out of the parents' house, exactly, to be independent from the parents. The prospect of jobs, it's there, but a very low pay. So they are angry with everyone, and the only ones that they haven't touched power are Vox, so they are saying, let's give these guys a go, see if he's going to be better for us in the future. So it's all understandable that that's what is happening. But another thing that's happening is women are also a big growth in intention to vote for Vox. So it's all very strange, but that's happening. Again, in the UK, I think we have the same situation. And you've got a Labour Party who won the election by a landslide, but week after week after week, they're disappointing people.
Yeah.
They're disappointing pensioners, they're disappointed, people on benefits.
And they've got a hostile media
and they keep
against them as
disappointing people. So what was going to happen is a lot of disappointed Labour voters are not going to vote again. They will not vote for the Conservative Party because that's against their nature. Yeah. So reform is the only option, and that's where he's growing. So it's happening everywhere.
Richard sent me through what appears to be, I'm not sure, this is on an X post, which said, wow, first poll including new Corbyn party, because Jeremy Corbyn's setting up his own, well, he was roped in by a member of the Labour Party left, setting up her party, and Corbyn's got involved. But it says Reform have got 34%, Conservatives 17%, Labour 15%, Corbyn Sultana Party 15%. I find that hard to believe. Liberal Democrats 9%, Greens on 5%. That's at Find Out Now UK.
Is it a reality now, this Corbyn new party?
I'm not entirely sure. It seems to show, and he's also sent me through a poll as well, it seems to show that Partido Popular are pretty much on an upward curve in terms of between sort of 30, I'd say that's about 34% of the vote in Spain, whereas the PSOE have fallen to around about 26%. Vox on the up, currently around the 15-16% mark in terms of voting. I mean, they've done better, I suppose, in some of the municipal elections.
In terms of growth, let's not forget the ultimate poll is the elections themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, this is only estimates that the polls are producing, but it appears that the biggest growth comes from Vox.
Yeah.
Partido Popular is growing a little bit, and the PSOE, they should be crashing completely because they're doing they're a complete disaster and it's really bad for the country. But they're only dropping, but only a little bit. That leads me to believe that there is a lot of people out there that they vote like they would support a football team. You support Barcelona through and through, or Arsenal through and through. Whatever happens, I'm going to support them. So you vote for PSOE, whatever happens, whether they do well or not. And politics shouldn't be like that. You should say you should be able to change your vote according to the needs of the country at the time.
And those bongos mean we come to the end of the first half of Viewpoint. Back after national and international news.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests.
Viewpoint.
Indeed, welcome back to Viewpoint with you for the next 50 minutes or so. If you want to get involved with today's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Thanks for my man in London for sending me through information about that poll I was talking about. This is a new poll suggesting that a party jointly led by Zahara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn could be level with Labour in national voting. The survey conducted by pollsters Find Out More indicates that the party could significantly dent Labour's share of the vote of the 650 people. Yeah, exactly. Polled. That's like saying that 50% of the people in a poll carried out in this studio said 50% said that Barcelona would win the Champions League and 50% said Chelsea would win it. I mean, that's how far we would go, wouldn't it, with the whole thing? The greatest. So they said so of the 650 people polled, 15% they would support the new party. Except Sultana, MP for Coventry South, resigned the Labour whip earlier this month to focus on leading a new party with the former Labour leader. There's not been a formal launch, but Mr. Corbyn has pledged the party will be for justice, as opposed to I don't know whatever else. Anyway, so that is the result of that. But if you've only polled 650 people, I don't really think that's. I mean,
it's a very limited poll, isn't it?
Poll indeed. Let's talking about polls. Let's see how the poll is doing.
Yeah, that's the main one.
That's the poll that really matters.
Yes.
Come on. And if you want to get your voice heard, if it's national, international, local, if you're fed up with taking the bins out, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Going to the Talk Radio Europe official page. Is Britain broken? With the recent poll, I think there were 30,000 people involved like that one. 90% had little or no trust in politicians. 70% think the country was on the wrong track. Is Britain broken? 90% of us, of you in the poll of polls, say this morning it's broken. 10% say no. So if you want to change that viewpoint, then please get in touch with us on that one. Yes, currently 90% think Britain's broken. 10% think it's not. So that's what we have at the moment in terms of the polls. And if you want to get your poll across, there's the numbers. Andres.
Yes, Giles.
952-4,000. Let's move away then, shall we, from the situation that's been happening or our thoughts on what's been happening in terms of political in Spain and political in the UK. Any thoughts? You got any thoughts on the current heat wave that we're by?
The heat wave?
The heat wave? No, because the Environment Minister. Because this is why.
The heat wave?
No, because the reason why I'm saying this.
Okay, you're far away.
No, come on. I'd like to keep you on your toes, right? Because stark increase in heat-related fatalities, 1,180 deaths, okay, in the past 2 months. 70 deaths last year. So either it's got an awful lot warmer with extreme temperatures, or is it the data? Because we've had 76 red alerts for extreme temperatures, opposed to none last year. So either they've reset the whole situation, or
let me just start telling you. When I lived in the UK, in the summer I used to go and visit my mum in Spain.
Yeah.
And I used to, every time I would arrive and complain about the heat. I said, it's so hot. My mum used to tell me off and say, will you stop it? In the summer it's hot, in the winter it's cold. So that's the way it is, and it's always been. So get used to it. But the reality is that according to what I hear in the radio and so on, is that we are breaking records in terms of temperatures. The temperatures we broke records here in Spain in June.
Yeah.
Another record that apparently is quite worrying, and it's the temperature of the sea. Apparently is quite high, although on Sunday I was swimming in the sea and it was pretty cold. But anyway, according to scientists, that is a pretty bad thing, that the temperature of the sea is rising. So yes, there is an element of climate change out there, and perhaps not as severe as some sources make us believe.
Yeah.
Because we've had, the storms in northern Spain, for instance, we've always had that kind of summer storms with hail. I remember that when I was a kid, that happened then and is happening now. I suppose now is reported more than it used to be, simply because we've got 24 hours news channels, and they have to fill in 24 hours of news, so anything that is thrown to them, they just batter you with it. But the evidence, according to scientists, is that yes, there is an element of global warming. Temperatures in the summer. As I said, in June, to hit records in Spain is quite crazy.
As you might expect, in the UK, we've got a hosepipe ban already in certain places. So
that's a strange one because it does rain quite a bit.
So, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you don't have reservoirs and things like we have here, so you don't look after the water as much.
You have reservoirs in the UK.
Do you? Yeah,
because when we have heavy rain, they're in danger of bursting their banks. True story. A couple of years ago, we had this whole thing. So, so that's but it's not only do you have hotter weather though, but this extremes, because we're also in Galicia, in the north of Spain. We've seen Adana once again, heavy rain, and 2 people I've been.
I said before, summer storms. We've always had them. Always. I remember being a child, and I'm quite old now. So we've always had that summer storms. You know, as I said, they're just being reported day in, day out of anything that happens to the weather. Where before we didn't hear it so much because, as I said, we didn't have 24-hour channels with news trying to fill in 24 hours, which is crazy, you know. That's why sometimes you see these 24-hour channels and they're on a buckle of news, and it's just like the same thing over and over again. They have to fill in the time and the space. But on the other hand, yes, it is true that there is evidence of global warming, and you see it on everyday life. If you look at the beaches now, they're much shorter than they used to be because the water keeps, sort of.
Yes, indeed.
That's quite noticeable. That's not,
Yeah, but that was because of they got rid of the SB gun on.
The SB gunners, no. But I mean, I've noticed it in the last time I was in southern England on the beach. Oh, yeah. I noticed that maybe it's my memory that plays tricks on me, but I remember the beach being much wider. The sand side of the
smaller.
The beach.
You were smaller though.
Maybe because I was smaller.
Exactly, yeah.
But it seemed to me that
that's
like
when you go back to your childhood house. It looks much. When you go back to your childhood house, it always looks much smaller than you remember it.
Yeah.
Because you were only 5. You were only 3 foot nothing. I've always been 3 foot nothing. That's beside the point.
I was 22 when I arrived in the UK, so I was probably
you were wearing
grown up.
I was wearing my Cuban.
But yeah, I mean, it is crazy to have these temperatures. I mean, watching Wimbledon, for instance, they were reporting 32, 33 degrees Celsius. That is crazy. And the temperatures that we've had here in the 40s in June.
Yeah.
That's another thing that makes you think that this is happening, is real. And maybe the scientists say they will pay a heavy price for it. I don't know. I hope not. I mean, we had the floods in Valencia last autumn. I hope we don't get anything like it again. But it is what it is. To reverse that kind of thing, that we would have to all change our lifestyle. And I said this in this program before. Is that it's not good that there are a handful of people changing their lifestyle. Right. If we all have to do it. Not all in Spain, or not all in the UK, or in Europe. We have to do it worldwide, and that is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So we're going to have to live with global warming and change to the weather patterns, because we are not prepared to change our lifestyle. I mean, are you going to go to New York on a sailing boat? I think not. I think you'll catch a plane and we'll go on holidays here and there, and then we'll carry on with our lifestyle, and the factories will continue producing goods that we don't need, but we consume. Plastics will continue to be thrown into the sea, and all of that will continue to happen. So we're going to have to adapt to global warming, global change.
952-78-4000 is the phone number. Studio at TRE.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. There's a quick break and then more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint
with
Giles Brown.
And it's live to the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, Felix, sir.
Morning, Felix.
Good morning. Just listening here. Pulled in for a moment. They're listening to Andreas, sir. Not exactly talking nonsense, but near nonsense. He does anything but start with the science of global warming, which is the amount of CO2 that's in the atmosphere. And we're now at levels that are higher than they have been for 800,000 years, and maybe more, maybe millions of years. That's the levels of CO2 that's in the atmosphere. And CO2 determines how hot the planet gets. So you start from there, Andreas. You don't start from anywhere else. Wimbledon or whatever. You've thrown everything in there. you start from the science. Okay, do you want to dispute that, Andreas?
I don't want to dispute anything. I've got my opinion. I express it. You might agree, but you might disagree.
No? Do you think that we, in discussing this issue of global warming, and
I'm not disputing global warming here. I'm not disputing global warming. I'm just saying that perhaps we are exaggerating.
Let me make my point.
Okay, you make your point. I'm happy to listen to it, but don't draw me into a discussion that I don't want to have.
No, don't lecture. Don't lecture me.
Lecture you?
Listen, and then respond to what I say, and explain why you agree or disagree, and we'll go from there. So, we start in discussing global warming. We start from the science of global warming. We start from the fact that scientists discovered as early as the middle of the 1800s, that's the 1800s, that there were certain gases which would cause the Earth to heat up. Those gases were mainly CO2 and a couple of others. Water vapor, different because it's a different process. Okay, now, we're at the stage now where the level of CO2 in the atmosphere, as measured by human beings, is higher than it has ever been for 800,000 years. And maybe more, maybe millions of years. That's how high the CO2 in the atmosphere is. We discovered this danger by 1860. And yet, capitalism has not done anything about this. It has only increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Now, over to you.
Which you're very well versed on the science here. Let me just tell you, Felix. In today's life that we have at the moment, how many of us are prepared to change our lifestyle to produce less CO2? Are you? Do you have a fridge? Hello? Oh, he's gone.
Hello.
Are you?
Morning, caller. You're live. We seem to have lost Felix. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Giles from Calpe.
Morning, Gil.
Yeah, I want to contradict what Felix said. CO2 now is one of the lowest in many, many, many years, okay? And in addition, CO2 has got nothing to do with global warming. Nothing, okay? It is all one big lie, okay? And I'm a scientist, okay? Former physicist, okay? On another topic, you mentioned the riots in Murcia with the Moroccans and the immigrants. Yes, there are thugs, of course, who try to incite violence and so on. But within the Moroccan community, there is a lot of violence. I mean, the Arab people tend to be much more violent than the Europeans.
But Gail, you can't say that. You can't say the Arab people tend to be more violent than Europeans. Come on.
I can, because I lived in the Middle East most of my life.
Maybe it was just you that were trying to punch in the face. I mean, come on, Gil, you're the best one in the world. Come on. I mean, you can't make a broad statement like the Arab people.
Arab society is very, very violent. I've seen it in my own eyes. Okay, I've seen it all my life. I mean, I remember going to the Arab quarter in Jerusalem just after the 6-Day War, and as a kid, the thing that struck me most is the violence, especially the treatment of animals, the violence towards women, the violence in the streets, everything. I mean, I don't know why I cannot make that kind of generalization.
Because of where are you based? I just want to get in before I lose my.
The problem, Gil. Of course, you have that opinion, and we listen to it and we respect it.
Yeah.
But what you cannot do is just generalize that all of them are violent, and all of them are...
I didn't say all. I said that.
You're implying that. That's what I understood, and I believe that Giles has understood the same. So, no, generally speaking, is generalizing, and you can't do that. There are violent people in every community, including the Spanish community, and but generally you would say the Spanish are quite gentle. There's no violence and everything, but unfortunately we have an element of violence in our society as well. So that same applies to everyone. Just to generalize and like that, it's just like it's just.
Well, I'm not trying to be. You're trying to be politically correct. Okay?
No, I'm not trying to be politically correct. I am correct.
I'm saying there's a lot of violence in in Arab society in general, in the Arab countries, in the Arab culture. Okay, and I don't know why I can't say. I'm not saying every Arab is violent. Okay, I know some Arabs, very nice people, very gentle people, no problem with them. Okay, but not only there's a problem of violence, there's a problem of an anti-Western sentiment in much of them. I mean, I was listening to the Emir of the Emirates was speaking, and he said the Europeans have no idea what they're doing because of the political correctness. They're allowing all sorts of people, from our countries to enter into Europe. They don't know what's waiting for them, and he said. They think that they understand the Islamic society much better than we do, okay? And he said it in English so that everybody would understand. You can see it on YouTube, yeah? There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of anti-Western feeling, and we have to take it into account when we allow people from these countries in, And I don't know why I'm not allowed to say it. I mean, I'm not saying everybody, okay? But there is a problem in the society, and those problems arrive here.
952-78-4000. Go take a quick break and then move more back for more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
Yes, indeed. Always live, always lively. If you want to get your viewpoint across, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And to the WhatsApp. Let's just check on the WhatsApps and the poll and the polls as well. So, looking at the poll, which we have on Talk Radio Europe, the Facebook page, the official Facebook page, we're still 91% think Britain is broken, and 9% think it's not. Good morning to Paul, who's sending me a cheery wave. Thank you for that, my friend. Let's have a look then. Onto the WhatsApps, because they've got considerably livelier. So somebody sent me the Reform. Let's go live to the Reform HQ, UK HQ, and he sent me a picture of banana splits. Remember that TV program? Yeah, that's what he said. Cookie's been in. Good morning to Cookie. She says, Hola to Andres. I remember on many occasions travelling to work in London in the summer, and temperatures in the day were up to 35 degrees. That was back in the 80s and 90s. Mind you, the tube's quite warm because it retains the heat. No, it does. It retains the heat. Of course it does. It does. There's heat down there from the Victorian age. Yeah, true story.
I used to go to the beach in Bournemouth in the summer almost on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to turn you up there. Now then. Meanwhile, thanks for that. Thanks for that as well. Come on, referee. Without any carbon dioxide, Earth's natural greenhouse gas effect would be up 2 weeks to keep the average global surface temperature above freezing. If one adds more CO2 to the atmosphere, people are amplifying the natural greenhouse effect, causing global temperatures to rise. And some, I assume, are good people, is what Donnie said about Mexicans. Right, to the lines we go. Morning, Cool, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, Giles. Felix here again.
Yes, Felix.
I was cut off there, sorry.
I don't know what happened there, yeah. You said you were there and there you were gone.
The thing is that this is not a question of blame or personal fault of people. This has been caused by a system. I can prove this quite easily. We knew from 1860 that CO2 was a gas in the atmosphere which causes the warming of the Earth. And I'm not going to the specific details, but I can do, of how that happens, because that's a different question. But the system knew that this would happen, and the system was warned that this would happen. But the system decided to disregard that warning and to disregard that scientific knowledge.
Right.
It was not a question of blame. What I've got in my house, what he has got in his house, what the other person has got in their house. It's a question of discovering how the Earth has warmed up. Because it has, and we know that because we measure it very precisely through satellites and other ways. We know exactly how much the Earth is warmed up. So, this is the point, that the Earth has warmed up because of the gas CO2.
Right. And
the system has continued to pump CO2 out into the atmosphere. And this is causing it more and more heating up and more triggering of points. But I want to get across this point to your guest there. He asked me if I had got a fridge. This is so childish. No, this is not a personal matter. This is a question, first of all, of determining the scientific basis for global warming. So I said, first of all, you've got to return to science and not have little bits of information about Wimbledon or what he did or anything else in that regard. Return to the science, how we discovered that the Earth, that this gas CO2 was a gas which would heat up the Earth. We knew this by 1860. Why has it not been changed? Why has nothing been done? Because of the system of capitalism, the production for profit, the greed, the emphasis on live today, live only for today, etc. Basically, that's all.
Okay, thank you for your call in there, Felix.
Bye-bye.
952-78-4000. Let's move away, I think, from that, because I think we're going kind of round in the circles. Just wanted some of this.
I don't know. You know what I don't get? It's that the way I understood the way I understood this program is that there is a subject, you have an opinion, you express it, and you go away. And you listen to other people's opinion, and you might agree or disagree. But it's not a program to enter into conflict. I don't want to argue with Felix. I don't want to argue with Gil. I don't want to argue with anyone. I've got my opinion. But you might like it, you might not. And then you have your opinion. The lines are open. You can call and make your point. And the people listening will, make them think about the way you think, or, whether you're wrong or you're right or whatever. And that's entertainment. That's
very strange. That's
entertainment. Yeah. This is not conflict. It's just an entertainment program. So people listen, makes them think about current affairs subjects.
Yeah.
And you agree with some people, disagree with others, and that's fine. But come on, guys. Let's not. Let's not go into conflict once and the other.
952-78-4000 is the phone number.
Keep encouraging them to call.
Exactly. Easiest way to help with CO2: plant more trees. Cookie, the voice of reason. Scientists last month were amazed to see Antarctic ice expanding. Yes, okay, yes. Entertainment, I think, yes, I thought we might get that. I've been sent the Russell Crowe Gladiator meme. Are you not entertained? Thank you, Richard. Yes, indeed. Let's move on from that a bit. Just going to do this quickly.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
If this is entertainment, then I want Giles in a sequin jacket. Thank you very much for that one.
That's told you, Giles.
That's it's not the sequin jacket you should be worried about, it's the sequin trousers. Anyway, let's not even go there. Top stories. Former Russian president said Donald Trump's threat to levy severe tariffs on Moscow if it doesn't end the war in Ukraine in 50 days is a theatrical ultimatum. Who'd have thought it? Meanwhile, the Ukraine's leader has welcomed his US counterpart's decision to send top-of-the-line weapons to Kyiv. Any thoughts? This is the straight from Pontins. Yeah, okay, very good. President Trump saying send top-of-the-line weapons in 50 days. Severe tariffs. Speaking with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte during a meeting at the White House, the US president said, "We've made a deal today. We're going to do sending them weapons, and they're going to be paying for them."
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah,
that's the point. Now, the United States seems to have agreed to supply weapons to Ukraine. But he'll be paid by the European Union, the European allies, I should say. Most of them part of the European Union. That's why I make the mistake there. But anyway, that's the point. And one of the statements of Rutte, the president of NATO or General Secretary, whatever his title is that they keep insisting on this 5%.
Yeah.
I said this before. I am against this crazy increase on the defense budget. And there is a reason for that. I'm not trying to be a pacifist here from Podemos or anything like that. But one of the things that should be considered is not so much the percentage of money that you spend on your GDP, but how you spend it, how effective you could be with the money you spend, and where you have to touch. So again, going back to what I said before, you need to have a plan and develop that plan accordingly. The plan on defense has to be very clear and be able to put the funds where they're needed.
Yeah.
And once you got the plan and you got the costings made, then decide how much money you're going to put in. You can't just say, put 5%. 5% on what? Are we going to buy bulletproof vests and spend 5% of GDP on that? That's wasted money. So you'd have to have a plan and a target and then cost it and then decide how much percentage you need to contribute towards that. But at the moment, he's just saying, you put more money. More money for what? And into what, you know? And that's where I disagree. I do disagree with maybe 99.9% of the things that Pedro Sanchez does.
Right.
But the fact that he's reluctant to spend that kind of money on defense, I tend to agree with that, because one of the reasons that the European Union, with their plan to develop a European Union specific, defense force, is to show Putin that we are strong in defense capabilities.
Yeah.
But that's an open checkbook, because we have to be accountable for the money we spend to our, in a democracy, to our people, to the citizens. And you cannot just spend and spend and spend. Putin can. He doesn't have to, sort of give. He's not accountable to anyone, only to himself, and he's got many resources where he can tap in the money from. We don't, and that's why I disagree and said, we're going to have more than you. Really? Who sets, the top and the bottom of that? And with NATO, just to focus on the percentage of the money you have to spend. You need to know how to spend money well spent, and maybe you don't need 5% to achieve the same result if you have a plan and, you target how you spend your money. So just to put a figure of 5%, I find it ridiculous. And Rutte is the one who's supporting that more than anyone else. He's a Dutch guy. Well, he's run a government. He knows what what the budgets are like for most of European countries, where they're very tight. We are borrowing more than we should.
Yeah.
We're spending less than we should in social services. That's what people really, really want. And what happens is that we are going to sort of sacrifice all this money for something that we're not going to know whether it's effective or not. And we don't want to know it's effective or not, because that would mean there is a total war. So it is a very tricky situation that the governments have to manage. Pedro Sanchez in Spain has said he would... I mean, what he did was absolutely ridiculous. He said, I'm not going to go with it. I'm going to spend 2.1%. And then he went to the NATO summit and he signed 5%, only to come out to say, oh, well, I signed 5%, but I'm not going to do it. So why did you sign it for? Quite ridiculous what he did. But the bottom line is that we cannot afford it. And what we can afford, we want to make sure that is spent on something useful. But that not goes only for defense. That should go for everything, for health, for the education, for all those things. It's not throw more money at it. It's quite funny when you get government saying, we're going to put 200 more million in the NHS.
Yeah.
But there's no detail on how that money is going to be spent and whether that's going to be effective. And that's why sometimes, they brand figures around that have to be paid by the taxpayer, but we don't know how effective they're going to be. And that's happening now with the budget of NATO.
Meanwhile, looking at some of the things coming in, remember, investment of 5% will cost all NATO members are combined. Remember, investment of 5% will cost all NATO members combined. All NATO members combined, $1.2 trillion.
That phrase doesn't make sense, but I know what he means.
Good day, Giles. This is Richard in Mallorca. Good morning to you, Richard. Regarding warming of the planet, the most immediate problem is methane from animal farming plus CO2 from the infrastructure that supports the industry. Thank you very much for that. I suppose the other thing, having said that he's going to sell these weapons, the whole situation at the recent, very short NATO conference was the fact that they wanted to get Trump on board, do it very quickly because his attention span, he likes to get things done very quickly, shall we say? And they didn't want sort of Trump to sort of pull out of NATO full stop, because that really would leave Europe in a precarious position. Do you think, Andres?
It seems to me that Trump had a half-cooked plan to just go to Putin and say, stop the war, let's do a deal, you can keep the East, no one is going to say anything.
The Donbass region, etc.
The Donbass region and so on. Let's keep it that way, keep what you've got there, and that's the end of the war, and that's it. But obviously that's not the plan of Putin, and he's not going to be Putin is not going to be dictated by Trump on what he wants to do. It seems to me that Putin's war, or the Russia war on Ukraine, is more strategic than that. Is one of those that he is keeping the pressure on for a long time to make the enemy to get tired and to run out of resources. Some generals, in Spain, quite famously, Franco delayed the end of the war, the civil war in Spain, because the tactic was to deplete the morale and the resources of the enemy, in that case, the Republicans in those days. And it's a war that all the historians said they shouldn't have lasted 3 years. There was no need for 3 years. He could have done it much quicker, but what he wanted was to drain the opposite side of morale and everything else. And it seems to me that Putin is taking that tactic, making it. This has been going on for a long time now.
Well, it's the meat grinder theory. It's the meat grinder theory. The Russians, that's what they've always done. We're looking at the 80 years since the.
Well, it wasn't that successful in Afghanistan. That lasted about 10 years. Was that?
Yeah, but that was not a conventional war in the sense of.
But this is not a conventional war either.
Well, you've got front lines and you've got the Ukrainian.
But it's just like.
It's not an insurgent campaign then, perhaps like Afghanistan was.
But what I'm trying to say is that the plan of Putin of that lentitude in this war It's a contrast with what Trump wanted. He hasn't matched up with what Putin wants, and where he thought he was going to finish the war within days, it happens that it's not going to happen that way, because the plan on the other side is completely different to what he envisaged.
Richard has come in. It will cost all, I said that, it's disappeared off my screen. It will cost all NATO members $1.2 trillion to get to 5%. There you go. That's what we're saying. I just haven't got my reading glasses on, that's all, so that's probably why. That's probably why not. Going to take this very short break, and then back with, we'll be into the last 10 minutes, believe it or not, this morning's Viewpoint.
The Remix, a recap of the best interviews of the week.
I always find that people's purpose is to make money, just money and fame.
I didn't want to have to leave that just so that I could be out as a lesbian, or so that I could with people who understand that women should be allowed to drive if they want to.
The philosophical question is usually, do we have free will or not? I would rather say yes, of course we do, in the sense that we have some capacity for behavioral control, but it's constrained by things.
The Remix, a recap of the best interviews of the week. Tune in Saturdays and Sundays from 2 p.m. on TRE.
Get ready to tune into The Lifestyle Show, the ultimate 2-hour journey through the art of living well. Whether you're a foodie or a fashionista, we've got something for everyone.
If you've drunk too much alcohol, you should slice hot tofu and put it all over your body, and it will draw out the toxins. So that's one thing.
We're here to inspire and entertain. Join us every week for fresh conversations, expert guests, and tons of fun.
Hi, Selena. I'm glad you're excited. You're the first woman I've excited in many a year.
Whether you're on the go or just kicking back at home, The Lifestyle Show will be your go-to source for everything lifestyle. The Lifestyle Show, Monday to Thursday, 2 till 4, for a whole lot more.
Lifestyles is brought to you by Caravans in the Sun. Find your mobile home, lodge or villa in one of 28 parks in Spain, France, Italy, Portugal or Greece. Caravansinthesun.com.
Permanent residency, say in Spain, it's after 5 years, then you can apply or get permanent residency, right? Citizenship in Spain is 10 years. You have to have been a legal permanent resident in Spain for 10 years before you can apply for citizenship.
Europe Today.
The UK is 5 years, only 5 years to apply to become a citizen.
Presented by Stephen Ritson, weekdays from midday.
Is Starmer saying it changes to become a British citizen from 5 years to 10 years, or you can't become a permanent legal resident until you've lived in the country for 10 years on a sort of temporary residency? And that's the question there.
Europe Today, brought to you by Castle Rock International Law and Investments. Enjoy financial freedom with the Equity Release Programme.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Into the last 8 minutes of this morning's Viewpoint. As I said before, if you want to get involved, you know all the numbers by now. Trump said he was very unhappy with Russia. There isn't a deal within 50 days. He likes that he likes to have, I'll do it in 2 weeks, 50 days, 24 hours. And you kind of want to, you get the idea that, Trump hasn't sort of wised up, has he yet? Because he said, during the briefing yesterday, Trump said he'd had calls with Mr. Putin where he'd think that was a nice phone call, but then missiles are launched into Kyiv or some other city. That happens 3 or 4 times. I don't want to say he's an assassin, but he's a tough guy.
Yeah, you see, they've got different ideas. And I mean, Putin has got a plan there, and he's going to follow it through. Trump seems to me that he's just like a little bit like a fireman, putting fires out here and there. And he's not marrying with Putin at all and wants to do it. And he probably got fed up. The only thing is that international diplomacy and politics and geopolitics are more complex than what Trump is proposing. He said, I want a deal in 50 days. That's what you do. That's the kind of thing that you do when you want to buy a building in New York, or you want to buy a factory from a competitor and everything else. It's just a kind of a business talk, Yeah. But in geopolitics and international diplomacy, these other things are important.
It's live to the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Paul from Fuengirola.
Hello, Paul.
Hi. I've been listening to you talking about Russia and the Ukraine and everything. Are you people not aware that it's a NATO proxy war? You know, and it was the Americans have been pouring weapons into there from when Biden was in power, because he basically bought the country. Do you remember when he said you're not getting $1 billion unless you get rid of your, I think it was the Prime Minister or the President, right? But look it up. Don't take my word for it. It is a proxy war by NATO. NATO's evil. It's like a terrorist organisation. And then the other thing is you talk about places like Iran. How many countries has Iran bombed, and how many countries has America bombed? You know, I don't think Iran has really ever bombed anyone. America's, you just look at their history. It's about 50 countries. You know, Vietnam, Cambodia, and all these places. You know, these governments are evil. It's like I said to you before, all governments are mafias. That's all they are. And look at Trump now with his, we haven't got the Epstein files. That is because Israel controls America. And Epstein worked for Mossad,
right,
and the CIA, and he's not dead. He's back in Tel Aviv. I mean, look at it. It's all, look, here's this video of his cell. I mean, you don't go into those prisons, those supermax prisons in America, and commit suicide. It's impossible. Anyway, that's my piece.
Thank you very much for your call in there, Paul. It's
my pleasure.
It's a broad church as always.
I need someone who calls in, expresses an opinion, whether we agree or disagree.
It's an interesting one.
But that's the whole point.
Proxy wars.
I like it. I mean, I disagree with what he said, of course. But, you know, who am I? Am I right? Am I wrong? Who am I? Exactly. So there's an opinion out there, and people will think, oh, maybe this guy is right. I think he's wrong, but there you go. What did you say? The Epstein was in Israel?
Tel Aviv.
Oh, in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a new one.
I must admit that's a new one on me. But the reason that
I heard Paul McCartney died in 1968, but you know the Epstein was in Tel Aviv. That's a new one.
No, exactly. Well, no, because I mean the thing was that obviously we're never going to get the Epstein papers because they said there's nothing in there, nothing to see. And obviously, if there's nothing to see, then therefore they should release them. But they won't do that because there's nothing to see. So there you have it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. 952784000. You people, yes indeed. Putin, the only one saying it's a NATO proxy war are Russian bots online. Thank you. Meanwhile, Fiona from near Murcia says, I agree with Paul 100%. Okay, good for you. That's what I say. 9 right into the last 3 minutes. Can we just talk about? I'm going to leave it on a light note because I've had a day and a half already. Yamal.
I mean, the football player.
The football player turned 18.
Yes.
When you turned 18, what did you have for your birthday party?
I can't remember. I can't remember. Nothing special. I honestly,
21st birthday?
Cake.
My 21st
Maybe cake. I don't know.
Right. Well, because this is making... Now, this is... before we get off, sorry. The poll of polls finally ended up. Is Britain broken? 93% of you think yes, it is, and 10% think no. So there you go. So Britain's officially...
There's no don't knows this time.
No, I didn't want to put... You don't know if it's broken or not. It's either broken or it's not broken. It can't be half.
Okay.
You know, it needs new batteries.
You don't know if it's broken.
So...
I'm going to vote don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
So when you turn a specific age, it's always good to have a party, but the Barcelona wonder kid has obviously upset a load of people because apparently, and I haven't seen this myself, but there have been the government is going to get involved because
the government get involved in everything
going on. There's not enough going on in the world without...
Get involved in the birthday party of an 18-year-old footballer. There you go.
Who, according
That's
to
money of the taxpayer well spent.
Well, I think so too. And this is from Bob, right, who said, quote unquote, the government's demanded an investigation into the controversial 18th birthday party during which dwarves were exploited and women with specific breast measurements were paid to attend. Spoiler alert, I bet it wasn't small. Yamal celebrates his birthday. 200 people, including friends, family, and Barcelona FT. Anyway, associating the people with dwarfism, threatened to take legal action. The government joined those condemning Lamal and demanded a probe into the party. That's the one word for it. In the face of criticism, the Barcelona... Not Lamal from A Never-Ending Story, thank you. I'm afraid the Barcelona star has simply shared a 1-minute video clip to fans on social media saying, well, just 1 minute, enjoy it. I mean, consider as long as they were consenting little... I'm not sure you can call them dwarves. I think they're little people now.
I don't know the story. I don't know what the dwarves were doing there. Whether performing or they
Freddie
were doing
Mercury had dwarves at his party with silver trays on their heads and a line of cocaine there.
There is an association of dwarves. They offer, sort of different spectacles and performances.
No, the Association for Dwarves isn't to rent dwarves. It's to stand up for dwarves' rights.
There are companies that they offer. As far as I know,
yes, there are.
They offer like a show or whatever, I mean, they have the right to work as well.
Well, exactly, that's the thing. But I think it was perhaps these weren't, I
don't know the details of that one. I just read briefly. It didn't interest me that much, the 18-year-old birthday of a footballer, to actually read the whole thing.
The stupidity of it is the fact that the government's now
involved. If I knew that you were going to bring it up, I would have studied it.
I thought we'd leave it on. I thought we'd leave it on a light note. You see, it's been quite heavy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if that's what it is, I think there should be...
Yamal is an equal opportunities employer. Thank you, Richard, for that. And I can only say one thing.
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
Tyrion Lannister, Game of Thrones, the little person in that TV series, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean...
Have you never been to a party where there's been dwarves? What's the wildest party you've ever been to?
Not with like dwarves.
Not no.
Or women with large breasts.
Well, we had an Egyptian themed party, and a naked woman came out of a rug.
Is there an association of women with large breasts?
I don't know, and I don't want to put it on the TRE account because it might just shut down the entire.
I don't know either, but I mean,
that's the association of bongo players.
The footballers seem to know that there are shows that can be hired of people who do different things. There you go.
Andres, thank you for participating in today's
Giles,
Viewpoint.
It's always a pleasure, as you know, and thank you for being so interested, and I know the interest is genuine.
Yes, indeed. Right then, thanks very much for that. I am back tomorrow with Let's Talk. Stephen Richardson.
Studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.